You, my friend, right now are so far ahead of most dudes walking around out there. It is amazing. Okay, you are really, even at this point, really prepared with relevant skills and know-how how to manage your infant. Changing, feeding, soothing. These are the key skills, and you now know what to do. Okay? So now let's talk a little bit about the other side. Okay? The side of things that don't always work out as we plan. You know, what happens when the baby doesn't stop crying? This is very relevant and extremely personal. And I think this is where, so much of our maturity and our growth and our ability to have our feet firmly planted on the ground and centered and grounded come into play. What could happen and what does happen sometimes more often than it really should is something that happens when we lose our control, when we're so irritated, we feel helpless, we just don't know what to do because we tried these skills and we tried to soothe the baby and they have a clean diaper and their belly is full and we're exhausted. Remember, it's not just the fact that we're doing all these tasks to manage your baby's needs. It's also that you're dealing with sleep deprivation and you're exhausted. And what sometimes happens, unfortunately, is called shaken baby syndrome. Okay? Shaken baby syndrome happens when the caregiver loses control and they shake their baby. All right? And it is a front to back shaking. Okay? Typically, the caregiver is looking at the baby and loses the control, and they're like, shut up, like this, shut up, okay? And what happens is, really we give them whiplash, all right? What can happen is, as a result of the shaking, is whiplash. And because their brain is smaller than their skull, and it's held by connective tissue, this shaking, one time too many, shakes the brain loose, and it bounces back and forth, and this is what can happen, okay? Okay? You're angry, and shut up! Okay, unfortunately, what could happen and what happens is scrambled eggs, right? Your baby's brain, they get bleeds. Oftentimes they'll get a stroke because we're bursting blood vessels. And 85% of the time, the kid dies. 15% of the time, mental retardation, hearing problems, vision problems, they're never the same again. 100% preventable, okay? 100% preventable. This is super close to home because with our first baby, I came extremely close, man, okay? I mean, I'm right here. I was right here. I totally lost it. I'm like really angry, okay? And pissed, and I catch myself in the mirror, okay? I catch myself in the mirror. And by now, I think you get, I'm a pretty happy dude. I like smiling a lot. And I recognized I was not in a good spot. I put the kid down. I walked out of the room. And truthfully, that was a major night in my life as a dude. Like, I recognized, here I am. I had already been through chiropractic school. Right? So I'm a skilled dude. I'm a trained person. I came from a house with two parents that liked each other. I like my wife. I'm, a relatively balanced dude who likes helping people. And it was it came down to me recognizing that this job of fatherhood, it takes another level of maturity. It takes another level of being centered and focused and grounded, right? Because I was so reactive and I didn't have tools. I didn't have skills. I wasn't prepared. No one set my expectations that, hey, first of all, I didn't know any soothing skills. And I didn't have any centering skills. I wasn't a master of myself, I didn't have any daily disciplines and self-discipline and any of these upper level mature skills that really is the most relevant set of skills to develop as a man today. With the world we live in and the technology and helping kids to stay balanced, our ability to be focused and self-aware really is huge, right? You're bringing this baby into the world. And again, the wheel doesn't stop turning. You got bills to pay and food needs to be on the table and cooked and the laundry needs to be done. And, you got a boss and you got friends and you got your wife, you got your relatives. And it's this, the world, I mean, this is like the fastest paced world that we've known, and it's getting faster and faster. And our ability to be grounded. Yes, grounded, centered. So we as a man can make our best decisions. We can have self-control and, our ability to be cool under pressure, which comes from having some self-discipline, which ultimately we already started talking about having a daily discipline of meditation, of breathing for you. Even that little adding in of some conscious, I'm going to work on a little breathing technique to help keep me calm during the day, That's a daily discipline. It helps for us to keep ourselves together and centered and focused. So yes, it starts right here, managing your infant, and it doesn't stop. It doesn't end. However, you beginning to start develop more self-discipline, yes, a meditation practice, one of the most relevant, I don't know of besides yoga, which we're going to talk about more in birth management and how to come through postpartum. However, again, we're talking about bringing a baby into your world, which is increasing the level of, anxiety and tension and stress and another human life that we're managing. Centering skills, right? If you weren't conscious of this kind of thing, like, hey, what's the best thing I can do to be the most effective, most relevant dad, husband, man for this child? Creating, more centeredness, your ability to be grounded and focused and less reactive in general. Probably the best thing that we can do, even for our own happiness and health and wellness, coming from a centered place. We're going to get more enjoyment, right? There's going to be more rainbows and butterflies and less putting out fires and apologies and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to fly off the handle, I'm sorry I said those mean things, I'm sorry. Man, I'm sick and tired, of saying sorry. Like I was sick and I didn't want to do that anymore. And look, there's always, yes, of course, no one's perfect. We make mistakes. And starting from the time your baby is so little, the more centered we are, the better decisions we make, the less apologies we need to make, starting now and even down the road, So the first centering tool is self-awareness, self-awareness. When I was getting so frustrated, it really felt like the best description I can give you is sitting in bumper-to-bumper traffic. And it's some place to be, you got a meeting you got to be at, and you start getting tightness in your stomach and you start feeling this frustration start to rise. That's how I was feeling, You may be familiar with that feeling. If you start feeling that feeling, first of all, it's okay. It's frustrating. It's stressful. You're exhausted. So the first thing is not to beat yourself up about that you're feeling irritated. It's to recognize, oh, I'm feeling really irritated. Let me put my kid down. And just to bring that a little bit further, a good rule, a good dad, hero dad kind of guideline is to never touch your kid or anybody when you're not feeling centered. Keep your hands to yourself, right? Keep your hands to yourself, and I'll share with you another story to help you along, just so you kind of recognize, even when, my son, and for whatever reason, I was definitely more physical with my son. I recognize, when he was like, I don't know, 4 or 5 already. He's bigger than a toddler. He's like he's like a little kid, past the toddler, and he's a little kid. And I was more physical with him than the girls. And I'd get irritated, and I would kind of hold him, and I'd, put him in his room. Look, I'm being vulnerable here, man. I'm telling you. And then I'd get my shit together. I'd be like, I'm sorry, honey. I'm so sorry. It wasn't you. It was daddy. I apologized, which goes a long way. Just as a new generation of dudes, we come home. A lot of times it's not the kid, right? When we talk about soothing skills, a lot of times when what we're doing isn't working, a lot of times it's not your kid. It's the fact you had a shit day, right? And whatever, you got reports and this going on and that going on. And a lot of times it's not your baby. They read us in a real way. They can sense what's going on. A lot of times it's us, not them. Even arguments with your wife or whatever, a lot of times it's us and not them. Okay? So again, back to self-awareness. However, this thing with my kid, number one, being okay to say sorry, right? Hey, I recognize, let's just say you don't even touch them, but you yell at them. You come home after work and you kind of are short with them, and then coming back later, look, baby, Daddy's sorry. I did not mean to yell at you. It's not you. Daddy loves you. Because it happens, okay, to the best of us. It wasn't you. I had a really bad day at work today. Being vulnerable, connecting with them on that level, it goes a long way. And I'm here to share with you, I recognize at the same time, I sensed, I was like, yes, I apologize. And I was like, you know what? I think I was being a little too physical with the kid. And I recognized it was this cycle, right? I'd be a little more physical than I was feeling happy with, and then I'd apologize. And I realized, dude, that is not a healthy cycle, man. Right? So number one, self-awareness. I recognized in myself, I was like, I recognize that is not healthy what I'm doing. And I was like, I need to stop that. And I said to myself, I will never touch my kid or anyone else when I'm not in a centered place, right? So then again, I'm like, oh man, I need some skills on how to be the most centered I can be, right? That's when you start recognizing, oh, maybe meditation is not so woo. It's like, oh, it's an actual real tool that if you do, and you're a human being person, no matter who you are, consciously starting a breathing practice, because your breath is literally the only thing we actually have control over, and it helps us calm your mind down. It's a whole other conversation, okay? Although we're starting it here right now. It's one of the most, if not the most potent skill and tool to help us develop more self-awareness, more self-control, okay? I've never, since I became conscious, I can't give you a date, but I recognize that it was not cool, that little unhealthy cycle that was going on. I was like, I'm never doing that again. And I never want to have to apologize for, I didn't want anything bad to happen under my watch, right? I want always to be this relevant, amazing man, father, husband. And part of that growth of my maturity, taking responsibility that I was working on an unhealthy pattern there and changing the behavior. That's why one of the most fundamental principles of being a hero dad, relevant behaviors, healthy relevant behaviors, earn you respect. It's your behaviors that earns you the respect for yourself. Self-respect first. And then the respect from others, right? Okay, so the first centering skill, self-awareness. You're recognizing that you're getting irritated. You put the baby down, okay? What you got is a healthy, normal, standard issue baby that needs to be soothed. Maybe they're crying, okay? You put them down, you walk out of the room, you shut the door. It's okay that they're crying in there, all right? Number one, self-awareness. Put the baby down. Number two, hero breathing. All right? So first we talked about Archer's breath, which was this steady breath in the nose, out the nose, in the nose, out the nose. That's a pretty much daily breathing, meditative breathing that you can do anytime, anywhere, all the time. Hero breathing is more like, you're kind of in a stress circumstance and you're aware enough that you are elevated. Okay? Hero breathing. You're standing up nice and tall, shoulders back, all right? Feet planted firmly on the ground. 5 breaths. In the nose, out the nose. In the nose, out the nose. By your 5th breath, you're going to notice your heart rate's going to start to come down. You're going to start to relax a little bit, okay? And then you're going to check in with yourself. Hey, am I calm enough to go back in? Okay? If not, 5 more breaths. In the nose, out the nose. You can do hero breathing as many times as you need, okay? Do it 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. And at that point, you're going to check in with yourself. And you're going to say, if you're on a conscious, if you've been doing that breathing, you're conscious enough to do the breathing, you're going to say to yourself, okay, am I okay to go back in? You don't need to change the soothing techniques. It's not the techniques, okay? It's us. So you go back in. If you feel centered enough, you're going to go back in and start from the beginning, okay? Do they have a clean diaper? Does their belly fed? Do they just need soothing? If you feel steady enough to go back in, you're going to start with your tools and techniques again, all right? Now let's just say it was a really tough day, man. You're exhausted, you haven't been getting much sleep, you got stuff going on, and you just can't do it, all right? Number one, you're human, okay? We all get to the edge. I mean, don't think for a minute that your woman's not going to get to the edge either. I mean, it's a big job, you're tired, it's all new. It's a lot going on, right? So to be nice to yourself, it's okay. It happens. So the next centering skill is having a tap out word, right? You get to this point, you've did some hero breathing, and you just don't have it in you, right? You're like, I just can't go back in there right now. Have a tap out word. Our word was, I'm done. Like, I wouldn't just come home from work and say, hey, I'm done, right? It doesn't work that way. However, having this tap out word, very relevant, okay? You're vulnerable enough, man enough to know you just can't do it right now. And whatever word you want to pick, pineapple, cucumber, I'm done, whatever your word or phrase is, create this phrase now. Talk about it, add it to the vernacular in your household, right? Add it to the vocabulary. So it's not some new thing. And believe me, your wife's gonna love this also because it's a tap out. Some nights you just need to tap out, and it's a no questions asked. Look, I know you've been working all day. I know you've been managing the baby all day. I just can't do it. I don't trust myself right now, and I'd rather just tap out, okay? Very powerful, very, very relevant skill, centering skill, being centered enough to recognize you can't do it right now, okay? So there's your tap out word. Next is a centering thoughts mantra, okay? So by our third kid already, I came up with this one. So it was my turn to manage the baby. Michelle's like, hey, Yale, get up. It's time to manage the baby. I'm like, okay. So I would put my feet off the side of the bed before I even got up, okay? I put my feet at the side of the bed and I would start my breathing, okay? Steady breathing, okay? Bringing my heart rate down because I just got woke up, okay? I'm tired, I'm woozy. And then I'd start thinking to myself, it's not her fault. It's not her fault. It's not her fault. It's not her fault. And whatever your mantra may be, right? We chose to have this baby. We chose to have this baby. Or she only has needs. She only has needs. She only has needs. Right? Because as a grown-up dude, I'm here to tell you, sometimes our thinking is they're purposely trying to piss me off. They know I got this. They don't like me. They just purposely want to irritate me. I was totally blaming the kid. For real. Like I wasn't thinking, oh, they only have needs. No way, man. I was totally blaming this kid. They want me to suffer. They want this. Again, it was a very immature, I'm not proud of it, okay? It was an immature place to come from, and that's where I was coming from, all right? If I didn't come from that place, perhaps, you know, this course wouldn't be here right now because it was like a major turning point. So having this centering thoughts mantra, taking any blame off them, you know, for interrupting your sleep, for the fact that, you know, everything's changed and, you know, it would be easy to blame this kid for a lot of changes that may not be so comfortable right now in your world, okay? It's easy to do, I promise you. So we want to nix that off the spot by even before we touch them, right? It's our turn. We start breathing, which is going to help us calm down. And then we're already telling ourselves it's not their fault, whatever you like to, that helps you to think about. They only have needs. They only have needs. They only have needs. Now you're going into managing whatever their needs are at that time. I don't know, 3, 4, 5 notches more chilled out, more in control, more centered. It's a good way to go in to managing any of your infant's needs, okay? All right, at this point right now, you have a toolkit full of centering skills that will help you avoid any kind of situation that you don't want to be in, okay? I wish I had those skills, and I'm so happy that I'm sharing them with you, right? So you now, man, you are so poised to be successful and not just manage their needs when everything is going smoothly, but also to know what to do when things are not moving smoothly. It's probably the most relevant thing that you can do as a man getting ready for your baby. Yes, when things aren't going as smooth as possible, and just think about, right? Look, at this point, there is a lot of stress going on. You know, it's all new. You're kind of worried about this, worried about that. You just don't know. It's a big question mark. Ultimately, the more grounded and more chilled, just imagine these two scenarios, right? Your baby arrives and you're like totally stressed, full of anxiety, full of fear. You know, your head is all over the place. You're worried about this. You're worried about that. Your baby comes. Versus you being right now, today, saying, wow, let me start practicing centering breathing, right? Some archer's breath. Let me start working that in. And then I promise you, if you're a human being person, you're going to find yourself saying, oh, I feel a little more centered. Wow, there's something to this, right? Because there is. And you start getting centered, and when your baby comes to you, you're more centered, right? You are more prepared. You're feeling more empowered because, of course, now you know how to change, feed, soothe, and also manage some stressful circumstances. And you welcome your baby to a more calm, more centered, more grounded you. It just makes sense. You're going to have an easier transition. Everything's going to be easier for you. And that's what I want for you, an easier, smoother transition.